Raw. Hey there, AG Army. Welcome to another edition of Ask the General, where I'm going to answer some of your questions. But before we do that, I'd like to give a quick shout out to one of my sponsors. See, I've got the shirt on right here. It's Mama T cookies. These are amazing, and if you haven't had a chance to try them, you owe it to yourself to give them a try. These are nutritionally dense, high protein cookies. Google Mama T and you'll be taken right to her website. They're also available across Canada in lots and lots of retail stores. If your local store doesn't have it, go in there and ask them to carry it. All right, now on to the questions. On to question number one, protein cycling. What do you mean by protein cycling? Well, there's two definitions of protein cycling, and one is eating different amounts of protein day to day, just so your body doesn't get accustomed to a certain amount of amino acids. And this is called macronutrient cycling. So in my shock and awe training system, I cycle protein, I cycle fats, and I cycle carbohydrates. It's a little bit detailed, so if you want to look into it, just go to our blog on our website, agarmy.com, and search for the shock and awe nutrition system, and I explain exactly how I do that. Now, there's another thing that I do with protein as well, which can also be referred to as protein cycling, eating different proteins regularly. And what I do is I have, I'll give you an example. Day one, I'll have chicken and eggs. Day two, I'll have turkey and pork. Day three, I'll have salmon and rabbit, etc., etc. So I'll have about 3 to 4 days where I'll eat different proteins every day, and then I will cycle them that way. So that way my body doesn't become accustomed to any one sort of protein. And why is that important? Well, the body tends to develop intolerances very quickly to proteins, especially. My wife, for example, was a vegetarian, and she relied on eggs and whey as her primary protein sources. And sure enough, over time, she started developing, noticing that she was holding a lot of water, she was getting a lot of gas, stomach bloating, fatigue. So we had her blood tested and found out that she had certainly grown or developed intolerances to whey and to eggs. Myself, I used all the typical bodybuilding proteins, chicken, eggs, beef, whey, and I also developed intolerances to those foods. So both of us had to go off those things for about 6 months, 8 months, before we could reintroduce them back into our diet. So by regularly switching up the proteins, hopefully you won't develop an intolerance. Now, we've all heard people who say, oh yeah, I ate tuna every day while I was getting ready for a show, and now if I look at it, I get sick. Well, it's not that your taste buds have changed, it's that your body's telling you, hey, I can't eat that food anymore because I've become intolerant to it. So I feel that it's very, very, very important to cycle up your proteins. All right, question 2, is organic food very important? Well, it is important in my books, especially when it comes to fatty meats and fruits and vegetables. Toxins are stored in the fat of meats, so we really want to avoid meats that are treated with chemicals and antibiotics and those sort of things. So for meats, especially the fatty ones, I think that's where it's good to invest in organic foods. When it comes to fruits and vegetables, anything that's grown out of the ground, the soil will absorb pesticides and all that nasty stuff that we don't really want in our systems. So when it comes to fruit and vegetables, that's important as well. Think of berries and other porous sort of fruits. These ones will absorb the pesticides from the spray, and you can't really wash that off. So these are also foods that you want to make sure that you purchase organically. So hopefully that answers your question. I do think it's important. And remember, if you're eating foods that are treated with pesticides and other chemicals, those are going to store in your body as well, because we're no different than the animals that are treated with this stuff that store toxins in their fat. We'll also store toxins in our fat. So avoid those as much as possible. It really is worth the investment. Okay, what is the best form of cardio? Well, there's two basic forms of cardio. One is low intensity, steady state, or LISS, and the other one is high intensity interval training, or HIIT. And they both serve a purpose. Now, HIIT has been shown in a lot of studies to be very effective at losing body fat, and lots of people really like it because it doesn't take much time out of your life. You can get it done in about 15, 20 minutes max, where the low intensity stuff takes a minimum of half an hour, and you can be on that for up to an hour. Sometimes athletes getting ready for shows will do up to 2 hours of cardio, sometimes even more. Now, I do believe that the HIIT is definitely, if you're running low on time, running short on time, I think the HIIT is a good way to go. It's certainly worth at least investigating and seeing how your body works with it. Now, for me personally, I train very hard, and I train 4 to 6 days a week. So I find that doing HIIT is almost too intense for me. I don't really feel that I feel that it kind of takes away from my recovery from my weight training. So for me, I prefer the low intensity, steady state stuff. It does take more time, but for me, it's less impact on my body, less impact on my recovery, and I really feel that I can maintain more muscle mass doing that sort of cardio. So try it for yourself and make your own decision. They both work if done correctly. Final question of the day is, what is the best time of day to train? Now, there are some studies showing what on average the best time of day to train is, but really the best time to train is when you get the opportunity to get in there and train. So I don't like to train too late at night because I do like to take pre-workouts, and I do find that the stimulants affect my sleep. So I do like to train 3 or 4 in the afternoon, but not everyone has that freedom to train that early. Some people have to train at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night sometimes. So for those people, I would really go easy on the stimulant pre-workouts because they could affect your sleep. Unless, of course, you don't go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning, then have at her. But I used to believe that I needed to eat at least 2 or 3 meals before I trained. But I sometimes will go to the gym after my first meal. So, and I have great workouts now. So sometimes it's just in the head as to what time of day is best to train. Over time, you'll figure out what works best for you. And the most important thing is just get in there and do it. Because it really doesn't matter what time it is. You're in there to train. Everything else disappears. It's just you and the weights. So I hope that answers your questions for this week. Join me next week on another episode of Ask the General.